And Aaron Franz.
You are listening to the Age of Transitions. I'm your host, Aaron Franz, coming at you live this Friday night, July 17th, 2026, live every Friday night from the facilities of Ocelli.com. Thank you for listening live or in podcast form. Do consider going to Ocelli.com and send Chuck a donation. He needs it now more than ever. Show your support for the network and that you'd like to see Chuck and myself and anybody else that might be associated with the network keep making media into the future. Ocelli.com. TheAgeOfTransitions.com. That's my website. Lots of ways to support this show. Of course, you can find the podcast at TheAgeOfTransitions.com. And Revolve, Man's Scientific Rise to Godhood. That's my book. Paperback and ebook copies are available at TheAgeOfTransitions.com. Thank you for buying the book, for sharing it, for recommending it. Still do get comments from time to time about the book, so thank you everybody for that. Also at the website is the link to the Patreon campaign. Thank you for supporting on there. There's a couple of little technical issues I have to deal with at Patreon, but I'm going to take care of those. Thank you everybody for all of your support and for listening. And I mentioned it last week, and I'll mention it again because I did not get any response on the new Age of Transition stickers. I still have plenty of these things. If anybody would want these, I can send you some in an envelope. If you send me an email with the mailing address, I'll just send you a couple. I'm Franz at theageoftransitions.com is the email, so thank you, and I'll send those out if you get a hold of me. It is the age of transitions that we're in. You know it. I know it. Some people out there know it. It seems like we're all aware of it, generally speaking. We know that the changes are happening. We don't quite know what they mean, but we're working on that, right? Trying to figure it out. Sometimes it seems like we're getting closer to the truth. Other times it seems like that's more of an impossibility to even imagine doing. That would be getting at the truth at all in this bizarre time where we live in a hall of mirrors. This constant augmented reality, augmented by technology, of course. And so much going on. So much about artificial intelligence. Of course, I've been talking about that topic for, I want to say, a couple decades now, right? Since 2008, I made the Age of Transitions video. Certainly was talking about it then, and I've been doing commentary on this ever since then. So we've been thinking about AI. I've been thinking about it for a while. And it's a hot topic at the moment, as it should be. It's important. But as any important burgeoning topic is, it's incredibly confusing to, once again, get at the truth of what's going on. Yes, we understand there is AI. We've reached a point where artificial intelligence systems have actually gotten to the point where they're viable and they're actually at a consumer level now. So they're not just some weird research projects being done at MIT and Stanford and places like this. No, there are actual products that people use. And the question now would be, where does the technology within those products, how does it develop into the future? What does it become? Does it stay the same? Does it become different? Does it become better? Do we get to a point where artificial general intelligence actually happens, where machines become self-aware, where they become conscious, where they become self-improving? Does a technological singularity happen? You know, the whole hubbub that the transhumanists have been talking about, once again, for decades. I came along. The reason for me even doing commentary in the first place was really to critique those guys who were out there promoting this concept of the technological singularity, of the idea of transhumanism. Like, hey, the singularity is going to come in the near future. And when it does, we collectively, human beings, have to do something about it. That something being implanting and merging somehow the technology with our biology. And, thus comes all the sci-fi speculations and concepts of what becoming transhuman and post-human will be. And of course, it's a good thing, according to transhumanists, with something that is going to happen, something that has to happen, something that's great. And I was always suspicious about the idea of transhumanism, and I was absolutely even more suspicious of the people out there promoting it. And as far as I'm concerned, as time has gone on, my suspicions have borne out to be correct. And once again, over the years, you learn more, you learn more. This piece fits on top of this piece, on top of this. You get to know more about not just the topic, but about the people. Once again, these movements, like the transhuman movement, and who was behind that, and what was behind that, and more. And frankly, the insane thing to me was that when I started this around 2008, early 2010s, when I really started getting into this, there seemed in my mind to be, like this invisible information war, I guess you could say. And I actually believed that there were these different sides and that I had taken this side. My side was one that wasn't even like really clear, but I was trying to like kind of, that's why I felt all creative and special. It's like, hey, look, my side that I was taking and the camp I was camping within, the little cult I was joining, was that of conspiracy culture. Conspiracy culture, and we've talked about this a billion times on the show. It's so hard to even talk about. It's hard to label, but we're aware of that. I was a conspiracy culture guy. I was part of 9/11 Truth movement. I was doing activism in that world, a very countercultural fringe space. Countercultural fringe. We understand that. Selling itself as an affront to the establishment, generally speaking, right? The idea being that by speaking truth to power, that you're going to mobilize a grassroots movement of people that will awaken consciously to the reality of what's going on. The reality generally being that we've been lied to about everything, that the power structures that are in place in our world do not serve us. It serves a controlling dominant minority, an oligarchy that is in control. And that by being a part of this movement, this cult, whatever it is, myself, I'm speaking for myself now, by being a part of that, I was going to be part of this action of awakening consciousness and making the world just generally a better place where ideally we can supplant that dominant minority with a more proper democratic egalitarian government of the people, where the government is of, by, and for the people, right? The American concept there, that's what we were after. And it was, that was conspiracy culture. We were going to do it. That was our method of doing it. So that was the camp I was in. And I felt that camp, that was a camp. And then the transhumanist camp would be once again, to my mind, it was a group that was sponsored by the conspirators, the elites, the dominant minority, was sponsoring the transhumanists to go out and propagandize the public into accepting emerging technologies, concepts of the singularity, so that when artificial intelligence does come, that we all accept it. And furthermore, not just that we accept the technology, but we accept the concept and we start doing the transhuman project because we want to. And we want to because these guys have hyped it up so much and they've done such a good job that we have been conditioned to accept it. We're going to want that. We're going to do it. That was, and it made sense to me that the many different concepts I learned in conspiracy culture fit neatly into the idea that the transhumanists were part of a transhuman agenda that fit into this greater plan to control the masses in a new way. Okay, and so I very much saw myself as against the transhumanists because of that, because they're in that camp, I'm in this camp. So I definitely believed that for a long period of time. Now, some of these general concepts I still personally do hold. I do believe that there's a dominant minority in control and that the system serves a tiny minority of people at the top, and that they know that, and that their interest is in perpetuating that and even broadening their power structure so that it's worse all the time. I do believe that still. What's fascinating is, as time has gone on, and I've been in this conspiracy culture world, I don't have, polls and numbers to back this up, but from what I gather from, as it seems to me, it seems as though more and more people have taken on the ethos of conspiracy culture, the acceptance that, yes, there is a dominant minority. Yes, the world is not as we have been told that it is. We are not being served. The government doesn't serve us. We need to do something about it. Drastic change needs to occur. I think all these generalizations of conspiracy culture have been taken on more broadly in mainstream society. The mainstreaming of conspiracy culture. Once again, I've been talking about that on and on this show, especially for the past, more recent years of the show. That's become more of an important topic to me, is the mainstreaming of conspiracy culture. Alongside that, the mainstreaming of conspiracy culture, if we come to a point where we accept that that's true, and I certainly have a long time ago accepted that, the simple question arises, okay, why has this occurred? Why has conspiracy culture been mainstreamed? And beyond that, who might be responsible for perpetuating this? Is there an answer to that? Can we answer that? Is it some sort of organic thing that has arisen where you can't really say, well, there's this group that stands to benefit? Or we could say that we could call this a success of the fringe cult that I was a part of. The truth movement has won. That's one way to view the goings-on of the past decade, where the mainstreaming of conspiracy culture has occurred. We could view that as a win. It's like, great, we're waking up. The people are becoming aware of the truth. They're becoming woke. Wait a minute, woke is a bad word if you're, among this one group. And, you know, right at that point, it's fascinating to kind of see that break in the conversation. Is like, whoa, you called something by a wrong term. Stop, hold the phone. We got to completely ignore everything. Because it gets into really a deep aspect of this whole information war, this whole weird augmented reality that we're subject to, that has brought these changes about. It has been technology, it has been internet connection has brought this about. There's no denying that. So much of it has to do with semantics and the creation of these trigger words, phrases, ideas that instantly create an association in our minds. And not just associations, but associations of acceptance or rejection, right? So if I were to say the same thought that we've already been working with, say, oh, yay, the conspiracy culture, the truth movement has won. People have become en masse woke. We have woke up the masses, and now everybody is woke. There's the trigger word right there, woke. And instantly you can see the semantic game that's played where it does trigger a response of either instant acceptance or rejection. And it does it in the same fashion that partisan politics has worked, where it creates these instant associations and triggers, and you associate good, bad with just a single word or single idea, and you already have this preconceived notion about it. And your mind stops working, honestly. You stop thinking, and you just automatically are reacting to things. So we're getting into programmed reality right there. And it's funny, I'm trying to pick apart, and I may get to a point where I actually say how conspiracy culture has become horrible. I haven't made it that far yet, but maybe I will. But right now, it all seems great, right? Because I'm talking the talk. We're talking about program responses. We're talking about propaganda. We're talking about fooling people to believe things that are deceiving, misleading, propagandizing, misinformation, disinformation. That's the du jour topic, menu du jour. Every day. Every day, it's the same thing. We're subjected to the same little triggers, the same programmed responses. And it's fed by what? It's fed by online media and technology, and what the internet has become. That is drastically changing. I hope you realize where that's going, and I might talk about that in a minute. But at the moment, let's get back to the two camps idea, the transhumanists versus the conspiracy theorists, which wasn't even really a thing, but I was making it a thing. Thus, I'm all proud of myself. Look at how smart I am. I figured out that the transhumanists were saying something that fit into the New World Order agenda, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not many people were saying that. I was not the only one. You know, I'm not acting like I invented that concept. I didn't even. There were a minority of alternative media and conspiracy culture research type people that were onto that thread. So there were a couple, but I explored it further. But the camps, which is what's ironic, funny, disturbing, apropos, is that at this point in time, I really, I'm trying to stop seeing these like different camps and like us versus them sort of stuff, and coming to find that there are more similarities in these things that are presented as different groups that would and should be opposed to one another. And I think the transhumanists and conspiracists, conspiracy culture people, fringe conspiracy people, and transhumanist movement is another perfect example. I mean, for me, it's always perfect. This is the lens that I see things out of. So this is the age of transitions. This is what we're here doing, is analyzing these two different things: conspiracy culture ideas and transhumanism, emerging technology. But if you look at those two things as movements or as groups or as cults or whatever, fringe groups, that's what they both are. And that's not always immediately and obviously apparent, although when you stop and you think for 2 seconds, it is. The transhumanists, they are a fringe, weird, and even countercultural in a lot of ways group of oddball people. Weird, tiny little fringe niche group of weird, differently thinking people get into transhumanism. It certainly got into it around the time that I was thinking about it and criticizing it. So I think it's absolutely correct to say that it was and even still is a fringe movement, countercultural in some ways, definitely weird, to say the least. Conspiracy culture and the truth movement, fringe group, joined by weird, different sort of thinking, oddball sort of people. Okay, I know this not only because I was a part of it, but the people that were in my 9/11 Truth group, definitely different sorts of folks than the average, what you imagine the average American citizen to be. Everybody was a bit different one way or the other, right? And the ideals, these are idealist cults where it's like we have this high ideal of what the world should be, and we're making it our personal mission to bring about that idealized future by, if you're a truther, it's by handing out DVDs on the street and doing weird sharing of information online and with anybody who will listen to you. If you're a transhumanist, it's pretty much the same thing, sharing your idea of, hey, look, emerging technology is coming, we're going to have to merge with it, but it's going to be awesome, don't worry. And here, listen to this thing, and, I can't be too crazy because a guy like Ray Kurzweil, look at him, he's a mainstream guy, and he's the one that's heading up this. So, I'm not completely insane. Look at this guy. He's like me, and I'm like him, and we're so... So they're very similar, and they always have been things. Now, of course, things that are similar in this way, that's where like the biggest fights are going to occur. And even within conspiracy culture, I mean, anybody who has been a part of it knows the infighting and just, it's always bad, no matter what. No matter what the situation, there's always infighting. There's always people at each other's throat. You can't get anywhere because everybody's fighting each other. But back to the transhumanists and the conspiracists, the truthers. What's really interesting and ironic is that over time, from what I see, and there's a broad range of areas that you have to look at to come to this conclusion, but I have the same sources are behind both of these cults. And yes, let's call them cults at this time because it's a proper term to use. Truth movement cult, transhumanists cult. Now, the backing, financial and even otherwise, philosophical and ideals, the ideals of, conspirators who want to spread their ideals for their purposes. As far as I'm concerned, it's the same guys that have been the sponsors of both of these cults, which, back when I started this, seemed like they were separate, but not so much. And if you're aware, you could see the merging of them going on a long time ago. You know, Joe Rogan was always a big proponent of transhuman ideas. He was always going on and on in the early days of his podcast, like, oh yeah, man, the singularity, and oh, you know, about this, they're talking about putting chips in your brain, and we're gonna be so powerful and so smart, and blah blah blah. He's going on and on about transhumanism, how great it was. He was always doing this. It was like a big part of his early show was that. And then as he goes on, he gets more into the conspiracy side of things, more and more and more and more, never really letting go of the transhuman thing, but like focusing more on the conspiracy stuff. And right there is a perfect example in one guy's material where you can see the conflagration of these two would be separate camps. They're not separate. They are. And we could sit here and we can have a debate of whether there was a hijacking of either one of these sides that occurred at any given point. And there may well have been. And both of these movements, transhumanist and truth movement, they both, I think, probably started as actual grassroots movements of people with the right intentions that were working for the good as they saw it, but got usurped by moneyed, clandestine power groups with agendas to take over the world. And as I see it, it's surprising to see how well everything has worked out thus far. Now, we're at a very strange point in time because, yes, these fringe concepts have been mainstreamed. And so, in the most generic way possible, everybody's on board with the cause of what has it been washed down to? At this point, what is the cause? What are we doing? What was it that we set out to do? That's getting murky now. We know that we want to take on the establishment. We want to fight the controlling elite. It's become like a Cronenberg film. Everyday life is like a Cronenberg movie scene. Especially if you have intellectually, consciously, subconsciously taken this on as a part of yourself, your personality, your life's work, mission, your identity. If you have done that, things have gotten strange. And if we do agree with the fact that this has been mainstreamed, which I think most people do because, the reality speaks for itself. Everybody knows about all these ideas. The people that, I had tried to convince of truth concepts back in the day, now not only are those people aware of those things that, you had to evangelize for and make them even aware were ideas in the first place a couple decades ago, everybody's aware of them. They know about all of them. What they think about each this or that topic, you're allowed to think whatever you want at this point. But certainly, the mainstreaming of this discourse has occurred. And we're in a weird spot. Because we know, from a technological standpoint, the systems are in place. the complete digitization of communications media. I mean, that's obvious. But it's more than just that. We understand that all things internet are about surveillance and, the concept that those in power are able to track everything at all times. Yeah, well, we're there. Obvious. We know that. But it's fascinating to see how it's hard to put into words this moment that we're in, because we're at this time where internet is still a concept of something that is a thing, it's a place, it's the interface that we use when we turn on our piece of technology, our piece of hardware. It originally was a computer. We dial up and get on the internet with our computer, open up the browser window. That was the start. Then it shifted into the phone, the mobile device, and we would, use the phone to get online, but then more so with the apps. We're using apps on it, right? So we're using apps the apps were considered internet. Oh, I'm on the internet with my social media app. The apps became primarily social media. Internet became social media. The only sites really of any relevance are social media and shopping websites, e-commerce and social media. That was the whole of the internet, really. We're still mostly in that spot where we're using the mobile devices as the conduits of internet. Internet is still a thing, barely speaking, but internet isn't going to be considered its own. It's not going to be this concept as something that we use, something that, it's like, oh, it's time to use internet now. Again, we're still in like the last days of even thinking that at all. That's starting to decay because internet is not a thing. Internet is a way of describing how these pieces of technology, social media, our mobile devices, or whatever we, access them with happens to be. Internet's merely the means of connectivity. That it's just like a back end sort of thing that's going on with our social media feeds. So once again, I think if you're noticing, anybody who is aware is probably been noticing for a long time that internet is changing. It's shifting more into the background. And it's fascinating to think that to begin with, it was even up front conceptually in our minds at all. It's kind of fascinating to think of internet connection being like a thing made into such a nearly tangible thing. And none of this is tangible. That's the other fascinating thing about this. Data centers are going up more and more every day. There's more and more of them going up. I mean, everybody knows how much electricity these things are sucking from local power grids and causing all sorts of problems for people's electrical bills and all sorts of horrible other issues, pollution. We know about the data centers. They're going up for what purpose? To ramp up the computation power needed to run what? More digital infrastructure, just more social media for one thing, more streaming, because it takes all of this it takes a lot to stream video. If you think of the early days of the internet, you barely even do it. Now we have the computational power to do that, and we take it for granted how much power, literally, electrically, is used to do these sorts of things. We've taken that very much for granted. And at the same time, we're mad at the data centers going up. We should understand and put two and two together why this is occurring. We're getting more and more in the digital augmented reality, which requires more and more physical infrastructure, being the data centers that are using all this electricity, that are polluting, that are making all sorts of noise, that are causing havoc for your local community, yes. But it's going to feed what? The next incarnation, next iteration of this augmented, increasingly virtual reality that we're living in. And the current form that artificial intelligence is in, particularly the LLMs and, you know, all of the consumer products we're aware of that are those, the Groks, the Claudes, the OpenAI, all of that. All of those things that we use, ChatGPT, those things that we're also being made to take for granted, they are the present. And really, they're coming to a spot where the guys behind all of this not only want those systems to be the next sequence of events in this internet story, where we move past social media apps and onto these AI-enabled platforms. What they want is to create systems that act as digital personal assistants for every person that can afford or have access to these things in the first world, right? They want us to have devices, and at the moment it's still our mobile devices, but that's subject to change, absolutely. And we're going to be even further away from the idea that there is internet, that we're being connected into something, going further into the matrix, right? Becoming less aware that it's even there. And the technology will be AI systems that we talk to and are able to ask about anything in real time, anything that's in front of us or on our minds, or we're having interaction with another person, something comes up, we need some sort of answer, some sort of service done, we need help with anything. You ask the system, it shoots back an answer. Because that's what these systems are already doing. That's what they want. That's why these guys are throwing everything at this, because this is the world that they want. It's like, okay, we can do it. We've got it. We've got everything in place. Now we just need more. We need more computational power. We need more training data. We need to amp up these systems. We need to make more data centers. Hurry, keep going, keep going. We're so close. Yeah, the government is now ours, and we can fund this thing as much as we want, and there's no stopping us now. So just keep up. Nothing can stop us. And that's the moment we're in now. We're in that moment as this is occurring. And where exactly we go with all of this, it's impossible to say. But we know what they want. We know what they have. They have their hands on the reins of our entire society. They've taken over. They've taken over the government. They own all communication, which is increasingly just becoming this weird amalgamation of all media. Internet as we knew it, now fading as internet, but that's fine because even old media, film, TV, those are antiquated, obviously. They're still running. Hey, the Odyssey just came out. So there's still films in theaters. But even those are becoming, taking on the tropes of online social media, meme culture, new generational ideas of what media is, how it works, how it is a part of your life. Not just you turn on the TV and you watch a show. It's just a thing that's always there, that you're always doing, that you always have access to, and you don't think about it. It's just always there. So we're in that moment. I think we all are aware of that. We all know that. We're being put at odds with one another, if you haven't noticed. We being the average people, the regular, everyday people that still make up the majority of the population. That's you and me, regular people that don't have really much of a say in any of this, in stopping it, in really, reaping any real financial or true benefits from this. The only benefit we get is that of what the product is designed to do. Of course, it's designed to help us out in this or that way and make us dependent on it so that we can't imagine life before it appeared. Certainly, they're really good at doing this. But the true beneficiaries, the stakeholders, as they're often called, of this, they are very interested in dividing us once again, being just most people, every day, the majority of the population. Dividing us into camps, into cults, into groups that believe they're fighting one another for, whatever reason. Doesn't matter what the reason is, just as long as you believe the problem is just other everyday people are the problem, one way or another. The immigrants that are coming in from across the border, they're coming to wipe out your genotype, and there's going to be white genocide, and there's going to be, your country won't be there anymore. Your country doesn't exist anymore. The past is another world that's not there anymore. You wish that it was. We know that you wish it was because we use those aspirational ideas as the slogans of political campaigns that, wouldn't you know, we financed those campaigns. Why'd we finance those campaigns? Why'd we sprinkle in those concepts that are divisive, and we know that they are, and they get you to fight each other? Well, because it suits us. It suits us and what we're doing. And what we're doing is we're done buying up control, because we've done that. We bought the politician that we got you to believe you elected and is doing something at your behest for the average person, making America great again for you. Hey, you believe that, great, because that's what we wanted you to think the whole time. Funny how as time goes on, things get muddier and muddier. Like, what was it that we elected someone to do? What was the idea of making things great? What were we? Again, we're back in the Cronenberg reality of everyday life, brought to you by YouTube, brought to you by Facebook, brought to you by TikTok, brought to you by social media, brought to you by internet. Wait a minute, what's internet again? I forget. It doesn't matter. It's in the background now. It's just the connection, which we're supposed to take for granted as so many other things. It works best that way, when you take things for granted and you don't think about this sort of stuff. But what also works is that we make you believe that you are doing just that you are very critical of the system, of the I tried to think of their stupid, but I can't even think of the dumbass buzzwords that they use. The deep state. Yes. You average man on the street, now you've been empowered. And you know all about the deep state. You know everything that they're doing. You know all about the corrupt elites that are in control, and they're satanic, and they're worshiping devils and sacrificing children and going to Pizza Hut in Washington, D.C., and you just know all about it. There's a portal to hell over the Library of Congress. Oh, man, you know all about that thing. Don't you just feel smarter and in control now? Doesn't it feel good to know these things? The reality of the devil dancing on top of the Supreme Court makes me feel good to know these sorts of things, and that I was gifted with the gift of knowledge that being aware of such things brings. Feels good. These guys know what they're doing. They are busy consolidating away, buying up every last bit of anything of value to put into their portfolio of things that they own and control, and they use to control us with. They're doing a real good job of it. And, they have... we would do well to know that so many of these ideas that fit into the concept of the mainstreaming of conspiracy culture, they brought you this. They brought you this. They use it. They want you to play that game where you think you're on to the real story, right? They want you to think you're on it. We have to realize how much we don't know. We have to kind of understand, come to terms with our own ignorance, myself included. I'm not anything special. I'm constantly trying to do this better all the time. But, I just hope that we can see what's going on, and honestly, I don't know what to say for the solution to this. I'm kind of going about it the same way right now that I was in the start in sharing of information, and I don't know if that's useful. I could get up here and act all special like I'm being shadow banned or something by these guys. And maybe I am, maybe I'm not. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if I am either way. They do own the systems, and they'll use them to be the propaganda outlets that they need them to be. And, if that means making my material less interesting on their end, then fine. But then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it to myself too, is I'm making stuff that, isn't the most interesting topics I'm talking about, probably. I don't know. And I'm at the end of the show, and I'm struggling for exactly what to say, but it's the end, so it's all right. I'm just embracing the Cronenberg scene that we're living out at this moment. And this is just another video, and this is a video on YouTube, what I'm doing right now. It's just another podcast in a sea of them. And that's just part of the world that's being created. This virtual system is just, a giant pool of these billions and billions of little pieces of media that will get lost like a single drop of water in the ocean. So, that's just sort of the nature of these unnatural things, these complete artificial abominations that they are, they're mimicking nature. So that's, that's something. The old occult thing of imitating nature. Excuse me, I'm starting to, my throat's giving out on me, but I'm going to make it, I promise. The Ocelli Radio Network, once again, ocelli.com. Do consider going there and giving a donation to Chuck. Chuck is doing all sorts of crazy stuff right now. If you're into JFK research, you can have some of his stuff. I know he's selling a bunch of his stuff, so, get a hold of him for that if you're into that and get a good deal on that stuff. TheAgeOfTransitions.com, still up. I'm still got my website for now for what that's worth. I'm got these stickers. If you want stickers, I will mail them to you. Send me an email with your mailing address. I'll send you a few of these things. The Franz at TheAgeOfTransitions.com. So there are those. This is the back of the sticker. I put one on my headphones. Isn't this cool looking? Isn't that great? I have special signature headphones now. That took me too long to do. Stickers. Everybody loves them. So I hope that maybe the message here I need to return to is we need to remember that these different little camps that we put ourselves in that pit us against each other, and yes, even the average truther and the average transhumanist, I think we would do better to not be pitted against each other, to realize that we're really doing incredibly similar things, that our personal ideals might be different, our philosophies are different, but that we are cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways. For groups like this, we're fellow weirdos, okay? So that's something we got going for ourselves. But but to realize, to not fall into the trap that the real conspirators, the real controllers, the real oligarchs are doing to us right now and getting us to fight with each other, getting us to look the wrong way and look amongst the masses for the problem. That's not the problem. They're the problem. They're the problem, and they're trying to run away with everything. They're trying to run away with everything. I don't know how we stop it, but we got to realize that that's the basic game and stop playing into their stupid little propaganda holes and their mind games that they're playing with us. So you got to just call it out for what it is. Just call it out for what it is. Point them out for who they are. And that is happening some places on social media for what it looks like. Now, they can usurp that and reflect that and do their weird digital propaganda judo on that, but we got to recognize that too. So this is the weird hall of mirrors we continue to exist in, and if we do, we at least have to be smart about it. But maybe we should just get out of it altogether eventually. Maybe. I don't know if that's possible, but we'll see. There's an ideal, if there ever was one these days. Break free from the digitized augmented reality that is feeding us into the full-on virtual reality that we're meant to live our lives in. TheAgeOfTransitions.com, that's the website. Stay tuned to the Ocelli Radio Network. Uncle the Podcast is coming right up. My name is Aaron Franz. As always, I will leave you by saying, Seeker, seek on.